So I like to, I really like hanging out with people that are kind of more weird and bizarre, like folks that have a perspective I would never have, you know? So I've been reading more books about um, like utopia and different forms of community, you know, kind of rethinking how we work. And in some of the examples I've been thinking about is like people like, you know, Maria Montessori, for example, right? She started the Montessori programs. Like, tell me how you thought about, you know, and I heard from other things I read that out of necessity, she designed her program a certain way, right? There's only so many Montessori teachers, and you had to have the kids kind of work in a certain way. Like, really picking your brain on like, how'd you design this curriculum and this pedagogy and this way of disseminating information, right? Where the younger kids, they eventually become older, of course, they teach the younger ones. There's kind of like a thing, and then they're all doing work, right? I like to learn from someone like that, you know, like how did Maria Montessori think about designing her program to scale learning? And a part of it is out of necessity again, right? I really like that. I want to go back to some of the early, you know, the philosophers back in the day, like the Aristotles and Socrates of the world, because learning back then, I know in America now it's very much designed like the teacher's in the front, everyone's sitting in rows. It's like little factories, right? But if you look at how the Greeks did things back in the day, and you know the Romans and the folks that will learn, everything was in a circle, right? People were in circles, they were talking, and it's like that's what I want to design. Understand how they thought about like because the Stoics, they're solving problems that they thought about all this stuff. It's like they haven't thought about these problems, right? And their approach to this, like, oh, how did you think about this? Like, you know, Marcus Aurelius, or who's some of these folks, right? What did you do to design these things? Oh, cool. So I like Maria Montessori because kind of teaching and how to help people help each other. I like kind of the Stoics and some of the early philosophers because they thought about these big questions with life and the way they design peer-to-peer learning, right? It's not a, hey, here's what you got to do, Barack. Here's the course, go do it. You know, it's like, hey, we got to go back and forth. There's some dialogue here, you know, like how these things get organized. So those are two things that two folks that I'd love to kind of chat with. Otherwise than that, you know, let me think, what else have I been thinking about more recently? It's so funny. Of course I like business folks, but I like more thinking about kind of the deeper parts now. Like how do we people that really think about how humans tick, you know, that gets exciting to me. Let me think, who else is in there? And those are probably the two I've got right now off the top of my head.
Perfect.